Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics are for the nerds. We have such an exciting podcast today. It is draft week. Let's go.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up.
Hey, everyone. It's draft week, but most importantly, Louis finally went viral with a tweet. 1.8 thousand.
Don't say finally. Don't say finally. This is my second one in a month. You guys are lucky I'm even doing this anymore. I'm at this level of fame. I said, you know what? Let me bring the people that got me here with me. And so I'm going to let you, Ryan just gets a million retweets in his sleep. But so I know he knows that. I'm sure you show, a little bit of cleavage. You get a bunch. I don't have anything. That's a compliment, I think.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still hot enough to get a.
Yes, you're hot. I got to decide whether or not you're hot or ugly. I'm sorry. I got to pick a side.
Can I be right in the middle?
Yeah.
But congratulations. I know it was a nice hockey tweet. So at least you were still in the sports world, making an impact. So I'm happy for you.
Well, let's share it with our listeners because it's crazy. Lindy Ruff has been employed by the Sabres all 5 decades of their existence. Pretty crazy. As a player in the 70s and 80s, coach in the 90s and 2000s, and the 2010s, and then also now coaching again here in the 2020s. Pretty crazy stat. All I did was just tweet something that was factual. One of these times, one of my jokes is going to go viral, I promise. And that is going to be pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. Once comics start stealing your Twitter joke and posting it on their accounts, that's when you've made it. So I hope that happens sooner than later for you.
I know we're getting into something. I know we're so much time. I got a pretty cool story that I don't think I've told either of you about off air. Did I tell you about how I did a bunch of, I won't say anybody else's names, but did a bunch of mushrooms with local comics, Kyle Turner, and and a couple of other comics. And we did mushrooms and watched UFC, and Mark Norman joined us. 100% sober, and he was just wiling. Like, we were wiling. I could not function. I legit spent most of the time like this, just trying to hide my face because I didn't want to answer any questions. And at one point, Kyle goes, hey, do you think all of us together could beat up one of these girls? and Mark Norman goes, well, we know Louis not moving because so you were already one short. He at one point went into Kyle's fridge, helped himself to a slice of cheese. That was that we didn't just see that. That was a real thing that happened. Wild night to throw mushrooms and people getting beat up, and then Mark Norman out of nowhere.
Mushrooms are the legal drugs in New York State, right? Those are the legal.
Sure. I don't think anything that grows in the ground should not be.
Yeah. No. I get.
Well, all right. 2 questions. First, who is Mark Norman, and secondly, what kind of cheese did he eat? That's what I need.
So Mark Norman, hilarious comic. National Act was in town doing Buff State auditorium. UB. You were doing Buff State. He was doing UB.
He used to be the opening act for Amy Schumer when she would do her national tour. So he's like a big deal. Our friend Sean Murphy, who has been on the podcast, he now opens for him across the world. So he's like a big. He's got a few less hour specials. He's like a really, really funny guy. But
for cheese, he went in and just grabbed a single slice of American cheese and sat down. And that's insane. Like, that's almost like trolling 4 dudes on mushrooms, right? Like, there was other food there. There was other thing. And we're all certain that this happened. Was not just like a thing in our imagination.
Is he shaming Kyle for not having like fancier?
I kind of felt like that's what it was. I kind of like we didn't do enough food, but see, the one thing is when you're on mushrooms, your tummy hurts, so you don't really eat a lot of food, and so all we had was a lot of Reese's Pieces and cheese apparently. So,
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you made it out alive, and your sweatshirt is still in one piece. So, let's talk a little sports, right? And Ryan, welcome back from the Masters. You look well rested, and what a fun match that was. But I guess we can't talk about that anyway. Let's talk a little college football. There's some really interesting things happen this week. Something very exciting. Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy returned. So the NCAA decided that, hey, since gambling is legal, Reggie should get his trophy back. So what do you guys think? Do you think the NCAA should vacate the 2024 national champions, the USC Trojans? And is there anything that they should correct? Do you think like this is a trend that they're going to start picking up the pieces? What do you think?
Yes, they should absolutely take away Michigan's national championship just because I went to Ohio State. But for Reggie Bush, yeah, it's about time. It was kind of silly to have done that in the first place. The next step is get Pete Rose into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's
Thank
you said the name. You said the name that I was going to fight.
Barry Bonds. Yeah, I'll say it too. Fine, both.
Reggie Bush was one of the best college football players of all time. Yep. Barry Bonds was one of the best baseball players of all time before steroids. When he had a small head, he was a top 5 player of all time. Pete Rose, whatever. I mean, with all this, with what gambling is now, the best players in the game. Listen, O.J. Simpson's on the friggin' Wall of Fame at our stadium. Like, not the best guy in the world, but the best running back in the history of the game. So whatever. Let's separate sports a little bit. I'm glad Reggie got that.
Yeah. It is interesting, especially since, OJ is stealing the Heisman and Reggie losing his Heisman. And so like OJ dies and then Reggie gets his wings back. That's nice. So let's see. More college football. Jim Harbaugh promised to get a tattoo of Michigan if they won the national championship. And as we all know, Michigan won against Washington 34-13. So he got a tattoo on his upper arm. I don't know if you guys have seen this picture, but it's not even like the Michigan M. It's like I just lost a bet and got an M tattooed. And then it says 15-0. It's very much a guy who's never lifted a 5-pound free weight in his life. Just has just got a tattoo. It's not doing anything for me at least. So
yeah, it seemed like a very sad looking M, right? It wasn't a very, it's not like it doesn't stand out in any way, but hey, he's got that title to him. I might have gone out a little bit more and kind of spruced up the logo or maybe put the helmet on there, but I guess the M just does the trick.
What else says loyalty to your college team by putting a tattoo on you and then immediately leaving for the NFL, right? That's great.
Yeah, very hard brothers of them. And then we have one more little football talk. So Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, who logged 791 receiving yards and 12 receiving touchdowns, believes that he and USC teammate Caleb Williams are drafted by the Bears, that they will be the next Brady and Gronkowski. 1, what are the odds that that's going to happen? And 2, do you think it's possible that they are the next Brady, Gronk, or Mahomes and Kelsey? That's a hard no from everyone.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know. I haven't really heard too much about Brendan Rice throughout this process. So I think maybe that's a question for Scott coming up. I don't know too much about him.
Yeah, I'm a USC girl, so I know a little bit about it.
I believe always in lineage over everything. So again, I don't know his profile as much as Scott probably, and he'll probably want to come on and jump on if he's got something to say, but as he's in the waiting room now, but I always want to bet on lineage. So 5th, 6th round pick, I think he is trending towards, and like, sure. And that might be the next pick that the Bears have, because they only have 4 picks, so they might be able to do that too.
Fast forward like 8 months from now, and the Bears win the Super Bowl, and we're like, oh shit. Whoops. All right. So do we want to bring in our special guest? Oh, hello, Scott Barrett. How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, welcome, Scott, from Fantasy Points. We're very excited to have you. Welcome. We're excited to talk football.
That sounds good. Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm going to start this off. One, I'm a plant lover, so I like the backdrop. Also, we're going to just do a little game you're like, I think they're watered. It looks healthy.
They might be fake. I honestly don't even know. I never watered it. Looks too green to be real.
We always start with a fun quote. And I just want you, I'm going to ask you a quote and tell me if this sounds vaguely familiar, if you know where this is from. Okay. The greatest victories don't always happen on the field. Do you know where that's from?
I have no idea.
It's first clue. It's not from the Bible. It's from the movie Draft Day.
Okay. All right.
Which we noticed that you just bashed, and I wanted to get your opinion on that, because I
love your take.
I have never watched it because of how many people that I like hating it. That I've never got there, but I saw you had some pretty strong opinions on that today. Got anything?
Yeah.
Draft Day.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of friends who love this movie unironically, and then like a fewer amount of friends who like love it ironically, and they're just like, just go in, turn your brain off, you're gonna love it. And so I watched it last year. I just never got those takes out, so I saved them for now. And I hated it. I tried to turn my brain off and just like everything about it, because like I'm a Giants fan, so maybe I just have Dave Gettleman PTSD, but I like so traumatized the entire time I imagine him as Dave Gettleman, and he's like, Bo Callahan, like no one went to his birthday party. That's like such a stupid reason to not draft clearly the better quarterbacks. Like, what if that was Joe Burrow? What if like just no one went to Joe Burrow's birthday party because like, I don't know, he wanted an intimate family thing, and the backup was Andy Dalton, and then it's just like the most egregious mistake, overvaluing a linebacker, and everything about it I just hated. So it just read to me like Dave Gettleman fan fiction, and I just cannot enjoy that movie.
I love it.
I liked your point of loving to see a Draft Day 2 where it just is like a disaster 3 years later. You get
the total opposite character, where instead of like banging his secretary, it's like some nerd who's scared to talk to girls, and he's just like, just get rid of everyone. We're in salary cap hell. This guy screwed us over. Every pick we have, it's going to be so boring and unsexy. We are trading down. And who are we starting at quarterback? Just find the worst quarterback possible so we can draft first overall next year. And that's the boring draft day. But I mean, you combine Moneyball and Draft Day, like people love Draft Day. A lot of people watch it. So I'm sure that would be a print fest if they decided to do that.
I love the hot take on Kevin Costner. Are you a Dances with Wolves kind of guy? Like, what is your?
I love Kevin Costner. I am a big Kevin Costner. My all-time favorite movie was The Robin Hood with Morgan Freeman and Kevin Costner.
Great.
I've watched that probably 60 times in my life. Like maybe 40 of those were maybe honestly like 200 times, but like most of those were when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I was obsessed with it. And I went back and I rewatched it, and it's still amazing. Like, this isn't a good movie, but it like, I don't know if you guys know Joseph Campbell at all, but it just like speaks to you on like a Jungian subconscious level, where it just like nails all the archetypes that have lived within the collective unconscious for an eon. Something about it, like maybe it's just me, maybe I'm totally way off base, and it's all just what's it called? Like when you love something as a kid, you just have sentimental attachment. What is it?
Nostalgic.
nostalgia factor.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just the nostalgia factor. Thank you. But to me, like I will go to war for that movie, even though I understand it's not very good.
I think my movie in that regard is Drop Dead Fred. That's one of the movies that really bizarre, probably terrible movie that I'll always like because it was just one of my earliest childhood.
What is that movie?
Drop Dead Fred. It's about a girl who has like an imaginary friend that's like really crude and is this like older guy. It's kind of weird. It's very weird actually. Now that I describe it, it sounds even weirder.
So I like bad movies. Like there are bad, like Action Jackson, all time awesome bad movie. But I can't even hate. If I watch Draft Day, it has to be a hate watch.
Me and Ryan have a bunch of questions for you, Scott. I went back and I follow a lot of your stuff and I've been really interested in getting you on here because especially not just around draft time, but why don't you first tell us or tell our listeners, I know most people listening will probably know you, but just tell us a little bit about what you're doing over at Fantasy Points and what you do this time of year.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO over at Fantasy Points. Highly recommend you checking that out. Check out Fantasy Points data. What do I do this time of the year? I just go insanely deep into the weeds on the rookie prospects. I wrote 16,000 words on the wide receivers. That plus running backs and tight ends combined is like half the length of Catcher the Rye. It's so stupid. Like no one cares. No one wants to read that. It's just, I do it for me. It's just like this self-indulgent thing where 7 years ago, I wanted to work in NFL front office. I have no interest in doing that today, but it's just like me trying to prove to myself I could do that. So it's like just breaking down the players on like a super deep analytical level. And the wide receiver article, like honestly broke me just because I've never seen a class where the analytics were so divorced from projected draft capital and, film grades from like Danny Kelly and Brett Whitefield and all these people I really respect. And so in that article, I just like raised a million questions, didn't have a ton of answers, just became more nihilistic. And now today I'm on suicide watch because I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll do a mock draft. I'll enter the mock draft contest. And I just like half-assed it where it's like 4 sentences on each guy. And then 2 hours later, I was like, no, I have to tweak this. But then you tweak one thing, you have to tweak like 6 other things. And I did that. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then I just did it again. And I did it again. And so it's just, this is what I do. And I love it. This is my favorite time of the year. Like December, this is what I'm looking forward to. And then the draft, doing a live stream, and then post-draft rankings. And then to be even more of an insane person, I watch every single post-draft presser. That's day 1, day 2, day 3 of all 32 teams. And then I'll do a podcast kind of recapping the highlights and key fantasy takeaways. But that's like 4 to 6 days of me just laying on that couch, listening to press conferences nonstop. And this is my favorite thing in the world. So that's what I'm doing.
I was starting with that. I mean, I feel like that's such a valuable resource to any of the listeners that haven't checked that out in the past. I mean, I think you get such valuable clues from the post-draft pressers. I think obviously that's why you do it. And realizing we also have a lot in common, because I recently was just talking to a friend and said that I think that the NFL draft is my single favorite sports related day of the year. I mean, we did the sports day draft a couple of weeks ago, and that was my first pick. I mean, the NFL draft is just pure entertainment. You find out, I think as Sigmund Bloom put it, you find out really what teams are thinking about their teams and where they're going on draft night, because the actions are what matter. So just, I'd like to ask you this. I was reading through some of your reports today from the analytics reports and your rookie supermodel. And I noticed that I think this year for the first time, you are starting to blend more of a film grade in with the analytics. Can you describe or can explain sort of how you're doing that and how you can kind of use the two, the analytics and the film, to come up with a composite grade?
Yeah, it's really just that Brett Whitefield is legitimately like the sharpest film mind I've ever come across, and his track record is insane. And like I said, this class was driving me crazy because like Brian Thomas has this one unique red flag. Adonai Mitchell only has red flags. Lad McConkey has 2 career 100-yard games, and like drive me up a wall. And it was just easier to just let kind of Brett like borrow his genius and kind of steal from that. So yeah, ultimately it was a blend of my analytics score, which is doing most of the heavy lifting, a little bit of athleticism, a little bit more Brett's film score, and then some projected draft capital in there. And that's how I arrived at the final rankings. I don't watch a lot of tape. Like I'm not a great film watcher. So I just kind of stay in my lane and stay with the analytics, but I do watch tape with Brett every now and then, or on a given prospect. And we kind of work in tandem too, where it's like, we're always in communication and I'm bringing up these concerns or these questions or these red flags. He'll dive into the tape and he'll get back to me on something. Like a key one was, so like we were talking about Brendan Rice, Taj Washington, analytically, I think is like, could be, I don't understand why people in the space aren't like losing their minds over Taj Washington, unless you're like me, where like I devalue slot production and then I extremely devalue screens and deep slot production. And I think I'm like the only one who does that. But yeah, Brett brought this up to me first because I'm like, who the hell is Taj Washington? Because he outproduced Brendan Rice, who you like significantly more. Best receiver in the class by yards after the catch per reception, which is one of the most predictive stats. He has this, like one of the best ever yards per deep target seasons ever, like 5 other different things. And he was like, bro, you got to watch the tape. He's just super gadgety. He's a ton of that production's coming on screens. And he exploited like the biggest efficiency hack at the college level, which is just spamming slot receivers deep. And the reason why that works has to do with a bunch of different things, but it just doesn't really translate to the NFL level with the narrower hashes. Anyway, this is like super early on in the process. And I dug into that. I'm like, okay, you're right. You remove that and the guy falls from 70 yards per game of the last 2 seasons to like 23, which is insane. Like he was only used in this super fraudulent way. And I wouldn't have thought about that unless it was for Brett, who, already watched all the film on him. And then we have this deeper conversation about why deep slot production at the college level is fraudulent and why it's better for my model to de-weight that. And once I de-weighted it, a lot of my biggest misses over the years looked a lot worse, or a lot of the industry's biggest misses, like Elijah Moore, Marvin Mims, Tutu Atwell, I don't know, like Treylon Burks, Jalen Hyatt, 4 other guys. And like, all these guys just spammed that efficiency hack. And so, yeah, definitely think a little bit less about Taj Washington, but Malik Neighbors also exploited that. He was still awesome without it, but that was like one red flag I mentioned in the article.
Responding to that a little bit, and this goes back to a point you made even when you first started talking about, this draft class. Do you think that there's a break in between analytics and film forming a little bit more because of the NFL kind of going into like this positionalist football, so to speak, where, a lot of guys are gadgety. There's a lot of slot play, it's a different type of offense that's happening around the league. And do you think that hurts the combination of the two and decipher, or do you think it's more just about the difference in level of competition that's being played at the college level? Like, that's something that is tough for me when trying to get these guys down to it, because of just, you could see somebody dominate a Division II school. Obviously, they're not playing, the same type of. They're not playing Alabama every day. So I'm just wondering if you think one of the two, or if they both contribute to it, or really what you are contributing that break a little bit between the analytics and the film.
I'm not really sure what the question was. I'm sorry.
Okay. No. I just feel like you are you say you go and you found out a little bit more on tape, and you reach out to your guy and do that. You are not just looking at straight analytics for this class because it was throwing you off. Why do you think that those numbers are throwing you off this year? Is it just this class, or do you think it has something to do with how the league is forming?
I mean, like, honestly, I just think I'm right, but this was to add a little bit of intellectual humility into the model, I guess. So like the most predictive metrics we have for specifically wide receivers is age adjusted production. You could do this a number of different ways. A lot of people like early declare status. I think that's just a double counting of projected draft capital. Breakout age is really important. That's not something I use. I just go about it a different way. I like age adjusted yards per route run. That's a variable doing a lot of the heavy lifting in my model. I just what was the oh yeah. And so the reason why that might be less predictive now is because, well, we're in the COVID era. A lot of these wide receivers you're seeing miss the entirety of their high school senior season, or their freshman season was cut to just 4 to 6 games due to COVID. And then we're in the NIL era. So players who, could have been drafted in round 2 or staying in school because, they're getting paid. Maybe we'll win the championship. My girlfriend's still in school, something like that. And the transfer portal era as well. All this changes things. And so maybe it makes that variable less predictive. I think I don't know. I tried to capture that with all the 16,000 words I wrote. But it's possible I didn't. It just like throws a wrench in, and we don't really have a historical sample for that. But that definitely could be what's going on. I'm not sure. I just think people are overrating this class. Like the one thing analytics does really well, especially with wide receivers, is just telling you who you for sure should not draft in this round. Like that's what it's really good at, is just here's this arbitrary threshold. And that's a very low bar to clear. And if you didn't clear it, just avoid this player, because this archetype just about always flops. And I think you see some hubris in film where, like we see NFL teams just massively overrating the 40. And it's like, this isn't predictive. What do you do? But like, lo and behold, always get overdrafted, and it's a mistake. And that might be what they're doing. I think it's also a case of just teams are becoming more woke to how valuable the wide receiver position is, and like the value of getting a good wide receiver on a rookie contract versus paying a scrub or like a mid wide receiver a ton of money. And so you're going to see them get pushed up boards. And I think there's some credence to that. So it could be a blend of all different things. But like I said, I just kind of ended the process with a bunch of questions and not a lot of answers.
So I know Lou and I both were interested in your thoughts on Brock Bowers in particular. He seems to be, and I think you agree with this based on your modeling and your projections, that he's the sort of the far and away tight end one in this class. And one of the interesting things that I found in your profile on him was that if you were to put him as a wide receiver, he would rank as the 3rd best wide receiver according to his analytics profile. So can you talk a bit about Bowers? And I mean, as a guy and as Louis is too, who compete in many tight end premium leagues, how high or how early is too early for Bowers? Or is it not crazy to consider, as we've talked about a couple times here, is it crazy to consider him at 3 or 2 or 3, or is it, 4 or later?
Yeah. So he's not a perfect prospect just because we don't have any number. He didn't test at all. He really spammed the screens. Like he would be like, no tight end has ever been drafted who's had more career screen targets or percentage of screen targets than him. And he really just spammed like one other route beyond that. But yeah, so my basic model prior to manual adjustments said, if I counted him as a wide receiver, he's the wide receiver 3 in the class. And like, just read that article, check out the dank stats. Like it's off the charts. And like, you don't even need stats. You could just be like, listen, this guy was 18 and 19 years old, and he was the best player on a 2 stacked national championship winning rosters. So I love him. Like, he's one of my favorite players in the class. I think he's underrated from like a real NFL perspective. I think he's going to be underrated from a fantasy perspective. I think he's a perfect fit for where the league's going. He just crushes zone coverage, the new hip drop tackle role. Like this, even like George Kittle-esque, that's going to be huge for him. So how early is too early? I've just kind of been struggling. I mean, I'm going to put Marvin Harrison above him. I'm going to put Malik Neighbors above him. And then I've been struggling, waffling back and forth on him versus Rome Odunze. In my own rookie drafts, which just about all of them are pre-draft, I think it's like close to 50-50 or 60-40. But yeah, tight end premium, I think that's easy or easier. Non-tight end premium, a little tough, but like right there still, like it's just really that convicted on the player.
Me and Ryan playing a lot. I have about 60 dynasty leagues that are just alone two start tight end premium. So like there's going to be a case for him at 1-1, and a lot of.
Oh, no. He is, to me, 101 in start two. Yeah.
Right. Like I think he, and I do think there might be some situations where I need a quarterback where I go to Caleb, but I think he's going to easily be my 1-1 in a lot of those situations. If and when I have him, to me, there's a real big drop off after the 3 wide receivers outside of Bowers and then the quarterbacks in Superflex. Obviously, when you're starting to talk about, and I know we're running short on time here, so when we start talking about the next tier of wide receivers, I know that there's let's just say from Brian Thomas Jr. to the 10th or 12th guy there, that's kind of in the same. And I know a lot of people have Brian Thomas in a tier above everybody. I don't think you do. So can you just talk a little bit about that next tier and who you see as your best prospects out of it?
Yeah. So, my disdain for the class is not the big 3. Like I love the big 3. I think, Rome Odunze is my wide receiver 3. I think he's going to be immediately like a better version of Drake London. Like love the big 3. They're all guaranteed wide receiver 1s in my opinion. But then after that, it's just like such a mess where it's just this giant tier of landing spot dependent wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s who all have their own unique red flag. And these are like red flags where it's like difficult to kind of just say how damning that might be. But yeah, I had Brian Thomas, my wide receiver 4. A lot of that was the film score and the projected draft capital. My concern with him was he very much profiles as a one-trick pony, elite deep threat. He just had the best, yards per deep target season in PFF college history. But the flip side of that was 50% of his yards came on just one route, the go route, and he didn't do too much beyond that. And so like that's an archetype that's, you see the NFL value, but that's a little less valuable in fantasy. And maybe especially in today's day and age with the rise of too high coverage designed to shut down the deep ball. And then you have Ladd McConkey, who it's like, we were just talking about Bowers, right? like Bowers just smashes Ladd McConkey. McConkey only has 2 100-yard games in his career, and one of those games Bowers missed. The flip side of that is like he crushed all the per route, per target stuff I love, dealt with a ton of injuries. Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy are their big concern is the low BMI. Worthy, obviously, great combine performance. Troy Franklin's was slowest 10-yard in the class. No one expected that. And they're just going to be super landing spot dependent with that BMI. You want to go to a motion heavy team with a forward thinking OC. Ricky Pearsall, Roman Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, not a fan. But Brett was, so they were found their way into my top 10, or actually Brett didn't even like Adonai Mitchell, but it just projected draft capital was wide receiver 5. So he snuck in there and really good athleticism. Roman Wilson wasn't just a late breakout. He was a late full-time player. I think two years ago, he was the wide receiver 3, but like 15 routes run per game, where the wide receiver 2 had like 28, just like a massive red flag. He projects to be slot only. So another landing spot dependent. But this is just what I mean. Like, it's just, I think maybe the NFL is just overrating these guys, or maybe like the word on the street is just wrong. Who knows? Or maybe it's just me being overly nitpicky.
real quick.
I think,
go ahead.
when you mentioned somebody like Worthy, right? He's someone, I think if he ends up in Miami, right, I'm going to be all over that, because that's exactly the type of style that would fit his play, right? Motion. And I mean, obviously if Neighbors was on the Dolphins, they won't get him. But I mean, I could imagine him having like 1,300 yards as a rookie. It'd be unbelievable. But yeah, it is an interesting class in that regard. If I could turn your attention quickly, I don't know if we have time for at least one more question, Lou, but I'd love to get your thoughts. Just I look back quickly on some of your 23 profiles too, because I think it's fascinating to look back and just consider what you could get out of a future year. So two guys that stood out to me: Kendre Miller. I think he was a running back 3 last year for you, and then Marvin Mims, who you mentioned earlier as a wide receiver too. Are you sort of out on him as a player, going into next year? I know he didn't show too much, but the usage was really weird, and obviously the quarterback play was lacking. And then on Kendre, I mean, he's going, I think he's like pick 150 in early best ball drafts, something around there. I mean, is he a value play for you this year? Are you sort of holding out hope that, with maybe Williams out of the picture a bit, he can take on more of a role?
Kendre Miller was I loved Bijan Robinson. I loved Jahmyr Gibbs. He was my pre-draft RB3. Big concern with A-Chain was just landing spot, but I said the same thing for him that I said for Xavier Worthy. May God have mercy on our souls if he landed in Miami. So like, if Worthy goes to Miami, skyrockets up my rankings. That happened with A-Chain. He skyrocketed up my rankings. And so like, Kendre was like a tentative RB3 and like, didn't really love him. But I love him right now at this cost. Like, I'm a massive buyer. I said this about Jonathan Brooks, worried about the ACL. It's that it's basically a death knell for a rookie, a particularly rookie running back, when you get hurt and miss a large chunk of training camp. That's just such valuable time learning the install of the offense. It's a massive jump from college to pros. And I think that really set him back. But I mean, now it's like, Alvin Kamara's, I don't know how old now. I think that's a good landing spot for him long-term. So I like him as a buy, still a believer, at least still holding out hope. Yeah. And Marvin Mims. Yeah. Big reason why I deferred to projected draft capital, although I regret it now, was because of like the heat I got for Marvin Mims. I still, looking back at this profile, like that was just such a good analytics profile. Like you learn a little bit more doing this in the next season. And like, okay, the red flag with him was like elite yards per route run, but low first downs per route run. So really projecting as just like what Ryan Heath would call an explosive play merchant or deep only guy. But I mean, I still think I'm right. Like, I still think the players, I would still believe in the talent. And what I said last year was like, expect a Tyler Lockett like trajectory, where it takes him some time. He had 3 different wide receiver coaches in college. He had a limited route tree. Like, that's going to come with time. And, he was blocked. Like, Sean Payton tried multiple times to trade both Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, but with those guys there, with Jerry Jeudy in particular in the slot, there wasn't really much you could do with him. And so, yeah, this was the first draft pick Sean Payton ever made as a member of the Denver Broncos. He traded up for him. Payton has a killer track record with wide receivers. Jeudy is no longer there. I'm bullish. I think like whatever he costs, like I'm for sure buying at that price, but I won't deny that the track record on receivers who had the sort of rookie season he had, it's not good. It's, I think, like DJ Chark and like 2 other guys in the past 8 years. And even DJ Chark, I wouldn't call hit. He just had that big sophomore season, but yeah. So for sure buying on both those guys. Not ready to totally admit I'm wrong yet.
Yeah, I don't think Mims is dead at all. I mean, he could be the number 1 guy here if they get rid of Sutton on a bad team with a rookie quarterback.
Well, I don't think he could be a wide receiver 1. Like that was something I said. He just doesn't have that archetype, but he could be a really good 2.
But who would supplant him right now in a situation where if they do trade Sutton, he's at least going to probably get the most targets?
Who'd they just sign? They just signed. I know they have Tim Patrick,
Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds, I guess.
Yeah.
More of a possession receiver than Mims is, but like your point that there's a ton of targets up for grab is super valid. Quarterback play is a concern, but I'm a big Sean Payton guy, or at least from a fantasy perspective. Like his offenses have always were awesome for fantasy. Like even when he was stuck with backups like Ian Book, like Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill and all that stuff. So yeah. Like I said, I've looked at the ADP. He's like next to like 38-year-old guys who have like no chance of finishing top 30 this year. So yeah, still a believer.
Well, I'm gonna hit you with one more thing, and then we'll let you go. When I got Scott to agree to come on, he was like, "I don't know if I'm really a fit for a comedy podcast." So I promised him 20 minutes of no jokes and stupidity, and now we're at 30 minutes, and I can't keep my mouth shut for that long. So I have one more question, and then we'll let you go. But this is kind of a guy I've heard you talk a lot about. And because of people talking about him kind of switching possibly to tight end, it's could be a really big hit in some of these 2 tight end leagues. Talk about Johnny Wilson for me and what you see from him and why you're so high on him.
Yeah, this is another one of this is why that article broke me. Like, so I first discovered Johnny Wilson because like I popularized the stat percentage of targets coming contested as like a red flag, where if you're at it over a certain threshold, like there's 0 hits. Now like Nico Collins is actually an outlier, but outside of that, it was like JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor. There's just about like every bust you could think of. And this implicates you as not being able to separate against college cornerbacks, which means you can't separate against NFL cornerbacks. And so Johnny Wilson had 2 seasons within that bucket. So I'm like, okay, cross him off my list. I actually popularized this with Drake London, and then the tweet went viral, and then PFF actually changed their charting. So like, he's not one of those guys, but Quentin Johnson was one of these guys last year. And so I'm like, all right, cross him off. And then as I'm writing the article, the dude is just crushing everything that's predicted. He just looks like a richer man's Keon Coleman. He has some of the most predictive metrics I care about. He's like top 5 with only the big 3 in these like killers. And it's so like, yeah, I made the upside argument for him. He's also a freak athlete, at least based on the testing. And to me, he's like the Tyrone Tracy's up there, maybe Blake Watson's up there, but like the ultimate upside wins championships pick in your rookie draft, where like, I think, like I said, there's the big 3, and then like I'm not seeing wide receiver 1s. Who has the best wide receiver 1 upside? It's like Xavier Legette, who it took until he was 23 until he broke out. He like did literally nothing before that. And it's Johnny Wilson, who like might not be able to separate, but like those 2 guys rival each other for the 4th best wide receiver 1 upside in the class, as far as I can tell. I mean, you could say like Lad McConkey has that, but that's like PPR cheat code fantasy. Like I wouldn't call him an NFL wide receiver 1. And so like I love that upside, but then it's like, what's the downside? Like I don't think the downside's that bad, because a team will just convert him to tight end, and then we'll get like super excited about him. Or there's still the possibility that a team does draft him as a tight end. And then guess what? He would be my tight end 2 in the class, because that's what we want. We want freak athletes. We want wide receivers masquerading as tight ends who aren't spending a lot of time blocking. They're just out there running routes. And so you weigh the risk reward. It was a player like I never thought I'd talk about, who ended up becoming one of my favorites from the class.
Well said, Scott. Thank you so much for stopping by, giving us your great insight. You might be the only person I know to verbally say out loud that you like Sean Payton. So that was. I
think I love him. I think he's hilarious. I think he's awesome. Total DGAF, and then his offense is always rocked for fantasy. So.
It's, the visor. But everyone, please check out Fantasy Points. You have so much great takes on there, great lists, great top 10s. And good luck with your press conferences that you have upcoming. Stay hydrated, sleep.
Oh,
And everyone, don't check out Draft Day. But thank you so much, Sean. Scott, we really appreciate. I've seen like Sean.
yeah, don't watch Sean Payton's movie either. That sucks. My mom
Oh,
texted
that
me,
was
like it.
that
No,
was
I didn't.
horrible.
Hey, don't speak ill of Kevin James. All right, this is the Kevin James podcast.
We are a Puka Nakua and we are a Kevin James podcast here. So those two guys you cannot shit on. Scott,
does he have a resume beyond King of Queens and that? I honestly have no idea.
Oh, the memes! Come on, the internet memes. That's all we need.
Paul Blart.
You're right. How could I forget a classic?
Put that on your list. Scott, thank you again. And seriously, great. Good luck this week. I know this is a big week for all of us fantasy football freaks. So good luck. Thank you again.
Christmas. Yeah. Merry Christmas, guys. Thanks for having me on.
We'll talk to you
soon.
Thanks, Scott.
When he mentioned his viral tweet, I was going to be like, well, let me tell you about mine. But whatever. One thing, we've had our guests back here for a while, so let's bring on our guests. I know we had one question before our draft.
Is it Greg Bauch? Very nice.
And Greg specifically asked, he goes, I'm just doing the draft part, right? And I didn't do this on purpose, Greg, but there is me and Ryan were gonna answer a question, and we know that you left a Bills podcast because you love talking about Bills so much. But let's all make our first round predictions here real quick before we.
I'm going first though, because I'm going to be very dramatic about this. I'm saying, hey Greg, everyone. Greg is very funny. Welcome to the podcast. Looking very thin. My choice is the Bills are going to draft down. We are not going to do anything until second round. I think there's no first round for us. I think we rather have more picks than just a meh first rounder. That is my hot take.
Wow.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I will go last. Go on, Ryan, if you want to.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast for me. So first of all, I just want to say hello, Greg. Thanks for joining us. And I'd like to point out that you're one highlighter green hat away from us being twins. So, you could always think about putting one of those on, and we could look very similar right now. It'd be cool. And all right, so for my prediction, I think actually the Bills are going all the way up to pick 8 with Atlanta. I know a couple of weeks ago when this first, the Diggs news broke, I was thinking they were going up to 6 with the Giants, and I still think that's a possibility. But I saw today, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah said that look out for the Falcons for potentially trading back. The Bills, making a Julio Jones-esque trade to get up for Odunze, I think makes a ton of sense, especially after hearing what Scott just said about those top 3 guys being really sure things. So I'm all for it. And I do think that the smoke is there, that the Bills are interested in moving up. And I think Bean has had this plan for a while, and that might have been inspired by the Diggs trade. So
I'm all in favor of Ndunze, and I think he is. I want the fake jersey from China that Louis will get us all. But do you not think that Josh is capable of making a second round pick as good as, like, I
agree with that take. I do agree that the with Josh Allen, he's going to make anybody look good. I do think the top 3 are generational talents. I would do anything to get up there. I don't see Bean doing it. I don't see
there's no one massive.
I don't see the teams being dumb enough to want to pass on them, to be honest. I think it would take a massive overpay, and I don't think Bean's going to do that. My prediction is going to be a little bit different. I'm good. I landed on this today. I think that they're going to trade up, and Brian Thomas Jr. is still going to be on the board, and I think they're going to take Worthy. That's where I'm at in my head. I think I'm starting to lean the fact that, one, no matter what, I think Worthy is the number 4 wide receiver off the board over Thomas. I just think that that's a little bit of momentum for him, but you can't teach speed, and not for nothing. Scott was right. There's been the 40-time guys have gotten overdrafted and they've never really been successful, but that doesn't stop teams from drafting them. So I just think Worthy brings something that this team does not have and hasn't had in a really long time. I can see that happening. But again, this is the most crazy and wide open type of thing that they get. But if they stay, I think they could stay and maybe get Worthy. But I see them moving up. Bean always moves up for his guy. He'll move up 4 or 5 spots to get Worthy or whoever his guy is. Greg?
You mentioned the Kevin James meme where he's standing in his kitchen with that look on his face. That's Bean when he trades up to 5 and grabs Neighbors. Like that's like because he just trades up. Like that's what he likes to do. And he has that Kevin James look on his face like, yeah, I'm BBB. So I don't know. I don't think you trade Stephon Diggs without a big plan. And I think that losing Diggs was not fun for him. And I think that all the drama of that 2 years, you just want to shower that off. So it's just a dumb prediction. I don't want him to do that. I want him to stay like at 28, maybe to 26 or something like that. But I think that they're going to be dumb and do that. And I'm going to love it. Like the Sabres hiring Lindy Ruff, the stupidest thing ever, but I'm all on board. So.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. So don't make this the clip. As I say,
I won't make that clip. Oh, wait.
Unless it happens. Then,
if it happens, then
put it up with the Kevin James meme next to it. Yeah.
If my pick doesn't go, I would like Ryan's pick the most. I think the Dunze would be just an amazing.
I love that idea the most because I think it's the only move up that's realistic for one of the 3 guys. I think the other 2 will be gone. I don't think you get to 5 for Neighbors, but I even getting to 9 for Dunze seems weird. I think more than likely we see a small move up. I love your idea, Ellie. I was not on board with that, but early on in the process. But if they could go, if they can move back a little bit in the first, in the early second, and then move up from 60 to like 50 and get 2 of these 5 or 6 guys are kind of on the same tier. I love that. Like double dip the wide receivers like Green Bay did. And, hopefully one of them pans out, if not both.
There's some solid choices. Well, I'm on a fantasy football podcast, you guys. So, all right, let's move on to our small wins draft. Now, we picked this topic. Why, Lou? What was
I know. It legitimately has no. We usually tie into something that we're doing or talking about. This one has been on the list. I thought that this has been funny. I think this will be good for us. Greg was willing to do it with us. The other ones were boring. I was thinking about doing something draft related, but we don't want to just talk about the best drafts of all time. This will be way more fun. I am doing the order right now.
If it was best drafts, what if someone picked Vietnam? Is that
Allie? You have the number 1. I have the number 2. Greg, you have the number 3, and Ryan, you have the number 4.
Just goes right in order. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Oh, I'm looking at her chart. She's got her chart up.
So with the first pick, Allie Brady, what is the number 1 small win?
Okay. Oh God, I can't wait till Louis won't put this in a Twitter poll. My number 1 is when an erratic car speeds ahead of you and then they like cut you off.
This is my first one.
And then a cop pulls them over and you're like,
oh, Greg is so pissed.
Is that your number 1 as well?
Yes, that was my number 1.
That
was
number 1. That is such a good one. That's such a good one. That's good. And
really not on Louis' top 10, but
no, it wasn't in there. That's good though. I'm really glad. And on that route, and because I saw Greg's disappointment, and I think creativity is going to do better than just common sense here. So before I lose this one, I want to go remembering to cancel a free trial as a small win. And I don't know if that deserves a number 2. I just didn't want to not get it. So I will do Remember to Cancel a Free Trial as my first pick. So Greg, now that you got sniped twice.
No, that wasn't on there. I don't mind that one. And I swear to God, that was my number 1, Ellie. I wish I could show you my chart, but it's on the computer. And now I'm changing my game. So I'm moving one up because now I'm afraid Ellie might take this one. I'm playing the game. I'm playing the player, not the game. I'll go with my first pick, Big Game Hunters Killed by Big Game. Like anytime you see a story on the internet of someone that like stages an elephant hunt and then the elephant tramples them to death, that's a small victory for me. So Big Game Hunters Killed by Big Game, however that happens.
That's so great.
Oh man. These are all great, and I'm realizing that my list is just like so vanilla in some ways. So I'm just going to take the weirder ones that I guess I have. All right, so if we're all going, a little bit off the trail for our first pick, I'm going to say when you are at a restaurant outside of Buffalo and they have Frank's hot sauce, that's a win for me.
I like that. That's for sure.
Doesn't happen everywhere, and so that's
Father of 2, Ryan Murrah. Father of 2, Ryan Murrah.
Yeah, exactly. And second one is pretty generic, but when you get onto the plane and you go and sit down and it's an empty row and there's nobody next to you and you just can kind of lounge and not have to sit next to somebody, avoiding people, that's always a good thing. So it's good.
I love both those. Those are good.
I thought there'd be plain ones and I thought there'd be food ones. So I'm going to go food next. And I think it's one we can all relate to. I'm going to say getting 11 chicken wings. Like when you order a single wing, it's 10 wings. Everyone knows it's 10 wings and you get 11. And you don't know if it's because the waitress is being nice, likes your group, or it's just luck of the draw. But it's definitely a small win. So getting 11 wings is my second pick.
Spoiler alert, I always think it's the waitress that likes me.
Yo, you think the waitress loves you. I just think that they like our group. You think
Remember the lesbian teacher that didn't like you?
Spoiler alert, I think it's always the bartender that loves me. For sure.
Louis like, I wore my nicest Knicks shorts.
Right. Literally, Louis thought a woman was hitting on him, and she's like, I have a girlfriend.
Oh, that was it was she said she was gay. She didn't say she had a girlfriend. That was my daughter's daycare teacher who's like 21 years old, by the way.
Yeah, and she said that because it's easier to get away with not saying that she has a girlfriend in case you had to find out who that was. So
Greg, this is great. I mean, after months of flirting with this poor young girl. And one night I just reach out on Facebook Messenger. This is stalking at this point.
Messenger. Why didn't you go LinkedIn?
I know. Facebook Messenger. She's my 3-year-old daughter's daycare teacher. She handled it very, very responsibly. She lied to me about being a lesbian and she won't look at me anymore. But fine. She's fine. She did not press any charges. So
non-reciprocal flirting. I love it. Very. What's your pick?
I don't know. I think I had one in my head and then that just threw me off. This is a big one for me because everyone makes fun of me for not being handy and owning a handyman service and a contracting company. I'm going to go with fixing something via YouTube video. That is that will change not just my day. That changes my I could get out of a depression if I figure out how to turn off if I could fix a car or something, that's I'm good for a month.
Great. I respect. My number 2, I'll speed this up, looking at our time. When the other person you're supposed to go hang out with cancels a plan that you didn't want to go to anyway.
That was on my list. I had that.
Victory. Another small win is waking up restful before your alarm goes off.
It's never happened.
Yeah, I know. I can't even. Man, I'm really digging myself holes here with these ones. Really showing who I am, showing how much of an eligible bachelor I am. But I'm I'm gonna go with changing a light bulb. That because sometimes it takes me months, and honestly, it doesn't. I don't even change it until other ones around it go out too, to where I can't see anything. Like even if there's one like in my room, if that one goes out, I will put the hallway light on for months before I change the one in my room. So sometimes, you know, I know that there's a light bulb joke here, but no, sometimes that's a big win for me.
How many picks are there?
4.
4. Okay, so Louis' next pick is going to be showering. Next one, I got it lined up. I'm surprised no one took it because we've all been there before. When you call your mom on her birthday and it goes to voicemail. So you get credit for the call, but you don't have to talk to your mom. So that's the small win.
It's so good.
So my third pick is a very Buffalo relatable thing, but it's when, you know, when you get those big ice chunks that are in between your wheel wells during like winter, when you kick one of those off and you get the whole avalanche of the ice chunk and it's perfect, right? It's like, it was just like, you know, just it's such a good feeling. For people who don't live in terrible weather climates, they don't know what this feels like, but it's a really good win. And then my last one, as a father of twin 2.5-year-old girls, when your kids either sleep in or they take like a really unexpectedly long nap and they give you more time than you were anticipating, that's a pretty big win in this household. So, you know, getting to 7:30, you know, 7:45 and to sleep in, that's always nice. So
father of 2, Ryan Mura. I'm next. My last one.
Yeah.
This one's a little personal. Can I have a minute? It's not really that long. I'll make it as short as possible because I want to get out of here. So a story for this one. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So our first dog was a mutt, really unruly. We didn't have kids. Dog was a big thing. We loved this animal. We had about 7 years, got out of the yard and got hit by a car. My wife was not home. I did not have a cell phone yet. I needed to get a hold of her. We're at the vet and it's not looking good. I want her to get to the vet, like just need her to get here because just touch and go, not a very good situation. We love this dog very much. But I could not get a hold of her. I'm like checking in. The vet guy saying it's not really that good. Can she get here? So I had to use a payphone to call her. They had a payphone. So I'm on the payphone and I call my wife. She could not get out of work. She ran her own business. She just could not do it. We're like on the phone for like 5 minutes, just crying over what's going to happen. And, you know, the doctor, like, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen, like, finally, even though I kind of know at this point, but we're just like silently just crying on the phone. And then when I hung up, I got my quarterback. Did anyone have that one too?
I just like the whole time I'm like, is he gonna get somewhere? Because I was like, what if that's just the story? What if he just leaves us crying? Man, that is that is so good.
I can't wait to have Louis Train write that out into the tweet.
Skeleton dog. $sign.
No, he's just going to boil it down to returned quarter. And somebody's going to have to guess what that means.
Yeah. Man, how do I follow that? I guess
my dog is crying right now.
Not
when your favorite pair of Nick shorts don't need to be ironed.
It's really mean.
They're doing really well in the playoffs, Louis. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm not even a Knicks fan, Greg. It's like you don't even know.
I don't even know why I say it. I have no idea why. I've been doing that joke for like 10 years though. So
my favorite line ever with anybody making fun of my clothing was Dan Fisher bringing me up to a show and says, "This next comic looks like he shouts out of a lost and found." Like it was like I forgot exactly the punchline, but it was yeah, I know I get made fun of a lot. Shut up.
I love you.
I know. I love you too. I got all boring ones. This one is a new one for me because I am, the 1 year single and living by myself, and I've always lived with females. My mom and sister growing up, and I've had female roommates, a girlfriend, a wife, blah blah blah. So now a really big deal for me is I went a few weeks ago. I think I was at that part of my mental journey, and I went and bought a plant, and it's 3 weeks later and it's still alive. And I want to just tell you guys, I think that's a pretty big deal for me. Now, my mom's cats came for that same 3 weeks, and one of them is definitely dead because I haven't seen it in 3 weeks, but the plant's still kicking.
This is a big victory for the plant.
Yeah. Big victory for the plant. So, Allie, close us out.
All right. My final, I will make it an animal one. And it's when they're you stop traffic because there's animals, like a bunch of ducks crossing the street, and then everyone sees it and like no one's angry, and it's just like a very peaceful, sweet moment. And then I don't know, I just love that because it's just simple. That beat out when you have a good hair day and when you crack your knuckles well. So yeah, just a heads up, everyone. But yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't go with when two dogs go at the same time. Like when two dogs poop, you ever have that happen when both your dogs poop? Yeah, I guess that's too big for this. But
or when one doesn't like eat it, and then you're like,
one of my dogs eats the poo and he's teaching the other dog to do that. So, yeah.
I know, like, go now, and I'm like, no, I can't pick it up yet.
A couple on my board that were boring, I think, but I think are good ones. Closing out emails, making your bed, clean a desk, throwing out clutter, text a long distance friend. I do that a lot. I know everyone wants to make fun of me. I have friends that when I don't, I think I've even done this with Greg. Ellie did it with me the other day, but I always reach out. If I haven't heard from somebody I love in a long time, I will shoot them a thing, and that feels like a small win for me.
Who does? I just got a text today. Can you be on my podcast?
That was it. Meditation. A heads up penny. My father, when my father was broke, he said I would never do to pick up a penny. And then when he got rich, he started picking up heads up penny. And then he died of cancer. So I don't know if it was the luck really was happening, but
two ones I left. I was going to draft The Small Victories, a song by Ron Hawkins on a really good album called Crack Static. So technically Small Victory. And then the other one was when a bartender mishears your order and brings you the wrong beer, but then they figure out that they brought you the wrong beer and they bring you the right beer, but they leave the wrong beer for you because what else are they going to do with it? And the Leafs losing a playoff series. But
yeah,
that was my list.
Other boring ones. Finding money in your pocket, getting ID'd, pulling through like an open parking spot so you don't have to pull like back. I always back in anyways, but like that's always a nice thing. We could just
You're a back in guy. Wow.
I am a back in guy. Yeah. I like to flex a little bit, when I know how to back this thing.
I'm standing too close to the screen.
Snow days as a kid, obviously that was pretty kick-ass. And then when someone accepts a trade offer and you were willing to pay more, that always is nice too. So that didn't happen recently to me, but that's for another episode.
Honorable mention, Father's Love.
Thanks. Aren't you guys all lucky?
Because my dad's still alive. He's still my dad. I can call. I'm going to call him after this podcast. Now that I think about it, because he's still alive.
That's your check-in.
Allie, did you
weird flex, yo?
Yeah, that was my other ones were like a good cracked knuckle, a good hair day. When like as someone you like hate has a bad set as a comic, you're like, that's great. So
does that happen with me and you every time we're together?
Totally. No, and also there's like no one I really hate. I just like a person, but like I don't know. There's no time and whatever. But when you're like at Wegmans and someone says you look pretty, and you're like, like that kind of stuff that happens. It's nice.
Glow ups. Ladies who glow up are nice, like the one that you glow up your sisters, like love those shoes, that kind of deal. Tell
Yeah,
someone
it's
when you
always
like
nice.
something about them, right? There should
Yeah,
be
yeah,
more
yeah.
of that.
When there's
Yeah.
like, when you merge off the 33 into the 290 and then it's like not awful. What's the, when you go to, that's like a really painful.
Or when you're at the big blue water tower on the 290, merging onto the 90, and someone's trying to merge over the last second, but instead they die of cancer. Like before they're able to merge over, like someone that tries to force their way over, but
Yeah.
while they're doing it, their ass falls apart from the cancer inside of them, and then they just die in the car, and no one cares. Like that, their kids are just happy, and like everyone is glad they died.
Does a seat not like project it back? Like, doesn't hold it in place like a girdle?
The ass? No, it's kind of like that mess is in there. So they just leave them there.
Oh,
And it's a
okay.
monument so more people can't do it in the future. And
Oh.
it's just eventually just a big stack of cars full of dead people that were the
Okay.
worst human beings that ever lived. And they're all dead of ass cancer. So it's like it's up to like 4 million cars at this point. So don't even use the 290. So that's a
Is
small
this a Salvatore's commercial?
That's why there's always that traffic going on the 290.
That's it. Yeah. All the
That's
ass
it.
cancer.
Still trying to get that
Rubbernecking from
Ozempic sponsorship on our podcast, you guys. So let's make that this year's small victory. Anyone?
Greg,
Well,
anything to promote? Sorry.
oh yeah, Greg. Any secret shows that you and I are not?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll never tell.
I
I have a show Friday. I have no idea where it is. It's Don't Tell Comedy. So it's downtown Buffalo. Find me on my Twitters. I am Ryan Mura. I do funny GIFs and memes. I have a really, really cool account. So just find me on there. The show's listed on there. So.
Allie, you're on that show too, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I might be or might not be, and it also might not happen. We found out that today that we might not. It's like the most confusing question mark.
So
show.
this is all really a secret. We don't know if Ellie's going to be part of it. We don't know where it is. We don't know if it's fucking happening.
It's like my 7th birthday party, basically.
I'm also excited that I could like Greg has like great credits. I have great credits, and I can't wait to still have like the shittiest spot on the show. Yeah. I'm like very excited if I'm on that show.
We get to do comedy to the people in line waiting to get in. I think that's so.
So bad. But yeah, that's Greg. I maybe will see you or maybe not.
Maybe we'll never know.
Who knows? Thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate it. And we're very excited for this draft. I know you are a diehard Bills fan, so I hope this is a very peaceful but also exciting draft for you. This is a big week for everyone. So Lou and Ryan, I know you guys are geeking out. So yeah, good luck, everyone. Enjoy the draft. This is Analytics for the Nerds, and thank you. We'll see you soon.